Hello everyone, Festina here. In this video, we're going to learn about the fundamentals of collections, starting with what are collections, why do we need to use collections, and we're also going to see a demo of the three important functions used along with collections. Now let's get started by understanding what collections are. I want you to think of a collection as a shopping cart which shows up while you purchase for items in an app. So, a shopping cart is a temporary storage space for your items before you go ahead and place your order. So, similarly, a collection is a temporary storage space for your data in your app. For some reason, we decide that we don't want to store our data onto the databases which we have connected to our app. Rather, we want to store our data somewhere temporarily within our app. And that is where collections come in picture. So collections are pretty much a storage space for storing our temporary in-memory data. And the collections are in the form of a table. So it has rows and columns. Inside this temporary table, we can store our data. And also they are global across all the screens of your app, which means you can access the data stored in collections from any screen of your app. Collections are available for usage only during the app session, that is, while the app is running. Once the app closes and the session completes, the collections no longer exist unless and until you have saved them locally. So there is an option to save your collections locally for offline storage purpose. Let's go to the shopping cart comparison. We know that we can add items to our cart, we can remove items, replace items, and even we can empty the entire shopping cart and start over again. It is the same with collections. We can add data to our collections, we can remove data, replace data, and even we can clear the entire collection. When you add data from your data sources to your collection, you are essentially reducing the number of API calls being sent to those databases because your data is currently cached locally. So the number of calls that you make is getting reduced, and this essentially improves your app's performance. It improves your app's responsiveness, especially for complex screens with multiple data lookups. Collection data can be used and displayed in different controls in Power Apps. You can use them in galleries, data tables, combo boxes, drop downs, and so on. Now let's get started with the three most important functions used with collections. The first function that we're going to learn about is the collect function. We need to know what exactly the collect function does. Collect function is going to add records to a data source. So when you use the collect function, the existing records in the collection or the data source are retained and the new data gets added to the data source or the collection. I have a button called add employees data, and in the on select property of this button, we're going to write the collect function. Let's go ahead and write collect. The first parameter is the name of the collection, either a new one that we're going to create or an existing one to which we need to add our data to. So we can provide any name for our collection. In general terms, we say COL and then we provide the name of the collection so that it is identified as a collection. So in our case, I'm just going to give employee information as the name of the collection. This is going to be a brand new collection. And then I give in a comma, and here we need to provide the item that we're going to add into our collection. So we're going to be adding a record in this collection. So for adding a record, we need to add the opening and closing curly braces. With that, you can close the collect function. And inside this opening and closing curly brace, you need to provide the record which you would like to add into this collection. I have added a record here. So it has information about an employee whose name is John Smith. And in this record, we have in total four fields: ID, employee name, age, and department, and the relevant values for the four fields which we have mentioned. And in collection, you can actually add multiple records. So for that, all you have to do is give in a comma and again give in opening and closing curly brace. And you need to do that for as many records as you want. And inside these curly braces, you need to provide the relevant fields and the relevant values for those fields to be added into this collection. So I already have a list here, so I'm just going to be adding that over here. I have added the information about 5 employees. So in total, there are 5 records. So with that, our collect function is done, and I'm going to click on this button right now. So let me click on this. And right now, our collection must have been created. And to take a look at our collection, we need to click on this icon on the left pane. That is for the variables. Here you can see the list of all the different types of variables, and we have our collections over here. So we have the collection that we created over here, and let's click on View Table. So here you can see that all the 5 records which you provided in the collect function have been successfully added to the collection. Now let us quickly add a data table so that we can display this on our screen. So in the items property of this data table, I'm giving in the name of our collection so that it gets connected to that collection. On the right pane in the edit fields, we can choose the different fields which are supposed to show up for this collection. Choose the fields in the order you would like that to show up in your table. So I'm going to go with ID first, employee name, department, and age. And let's click on add. So here you go, the items got added. So that's it. Here you can see that information about 5 employees have been added. Now, as I told you, select function is used for adding data onto a data source. I'm just going to add another button over here. In the onSelect property of this add new employee data button, I have added another collect function. So this time I have given in one record here. So this is a new employee and we're going to add his information to our collection, which we already have. So once I click on this, you can see that his data gets added onto this table over here. Whenever you use the collect function, the existing data is not affected in any way. Your new data is appended to the dataset which is already available in your collection. Now let's take a look at the ClearCollect function. So what does ClearCollect do? When you use the ClearCollect function, what happens is all the data that is present in your collection is deleted or removed from your collection, and only the new data which you have provided in the ClearCollect function is added into your collection. So ideally, whenever you want to wipe out everything from your collection and provide a new data set to your collection, go ahead and use the ClearCollect function. So here I'm going to get rid of this button. We already have the Add Employees button. We have information about 5 employees in 5 records. So now for our example, I'm just going to get rid of the last 3 records and make sure that there are only 2 records in this collect function. And I'm going to prefix this with clear so that it is changed to a clear collect function. So right now you can see that the format is the same for clear collect. First, you need to provide the collection name to which you need to apply clear collect. And then you need to provide the records which you need to add into this collection. So now I'm going to click on this button. And when I do that, you can see that all of the information in this collection got deleted and only the 2 new records which I provided have been added to our collection. So this is pretty much what ClearCollect does. It's not like you have to use ClearCollect only on a collection with items. Even if you are going to create a brand new collection, you can go ahead and use ClearCollect. That's not a problem. So it's just like adding to an empty collection. And next, let's go ahead and see what the clear function does. Just as you can understand from the name of this function, the clear function is just going to clear your collection. It's going to empty it, delete all the records, and return an empty collection to you. Here I have added another button called Clear Employees Data. And in the onSelect property of this button, we're going to write the clear function. So let's say clear, and inside this function, I need to provide the name of the collection which we need to clear. In our case, it's going to be COL employee information. That's it. Now when I go ahead and click on this, you will see that this table becomes empty. So let's try that. So there you go. That's all about the clear function. I believe you got a pretty good understanding of collect, clear collect, and clear. For our collection, we can also add data directly from our data source. So let's try to add the data from a SharePoint list to our collection. So first, I will quickly show you the list that I have. This is the SharePoint list called customer feedback. This has 3 columns with the customer name and the feedback that they have provided about the overall service and the knowledge of support member based on the customer support experience they had. So you can see that there are currently 2 records in this list. I'm just gonna put this list data directly onto a collection and let's see how that's done. So here in the onSelect property of this button, I'm just giving clear collect and first we're giving in the collection's name, which is COL customer feedback. And then I have given the SharePoint list name, which is customer feedback. So I have already connected this SharePoint list to the app. So now when I click on the button, all the data which is from the SharePoint list gets added to the collection. And this data table is connected to the COL customer feedback collection. So now when I click on this, you can see that whatever information was present in the SharePoint list got added to the collection, and the collection data is being displayed in this data table. So vice versa, you can also add the data from a collection to a SharePoint list. And now let's see how that's done. Here I have added two buttons. The first button, Create Customer Feedback Collection, is going to create a collection. And for that, I've used the ClearCollect function. This is going to create a collection called COL Customer Feedback. And inside that, I have added four records with the similar columns that I have in the SharePoint list. So this has three columns called title, overall service, and knowledge of support member. When you are adding data from your collection to your data source, you need to make sure that the schema matches perfectly. Column names have to match. So for you to get the internal field name of these fields, click on the settings gear and go to list settings. In the list settings, we will be able to see the different columns that we have. For example, let me open knowledge of support member column. So once you open that, you will be able to see the internal field name of the field in your browser. So the last parameter, just copy the value from here and you can use that in your collections field name so that this matches to the data source to which you're going to add your data to. So when your schema matches, you can easily add your collection data to your data source. Now let's go ahead and click on this button so that our collection gets created. Let's take a quick look at our collection to make sure that the data is proper. So here the three columns have been successfully added. Now the next button is used for adding this collection data directly to the SharePoint list. So here I am using the collect function. And with the collect function, we can actually add data items to our data source. So the first parameter is the SharePoint list. So that is called customer feedback. We're going to add data to the SharePoint list. And the next parameter is our collection. So this collection is going to be added to our SharePoint list. I'm just going to quickly show you the SharePoint list as in how it is currently so that you will be able to see the changes. Right now, there are two records, one from Festina and one from Sherwin. Now let's go to the Power Apps and click on the second button. Let's go back to the SharePoint list and do a refresh. And here you go. All the items which we added from there got successfully added to our SharePoint list. Now comes the most important part. In Power Apps, with a non-delegable query, we can retrieve a max of 500 items at a go. But there is a way to increase this limit. Click on the settings option over here. And in settings, when you scroll down, there you should see an option called as data row limit. Set how many rows are retrieved from server-based connections where delegation is not supported. So delegation is an extremely important topic while working with data and Power Apps. So I'm going to be taking a complete video on delegation. So make sure to subscribe to the channel to be notified when it gets uploaded. For now, the limit is set to 500. The maximum limit that you can set is 2000. So if I'm going to exceed it, I'm going to get an error saying that it has to be between 1 and 2000. If you would like to learn more about collection, about advanced collections and nested galleries wherein we display those collections, make sure to watch my video on custom radio buttons wherein you can learn about all of this in detail. If you enjoyed this video and if you feel like you have learned something out of it, make sure to subscribe to this channel so that you can be notified on all the upcoming videos. And if you would like me to take tutorials on any specific topics, do add them in the comment section.